going to be comparing some of the best black and white pencils on the market. We're going to be comparing their opaqueness, how they layer, and how they blend. We're going to be looking at 4 different brands in particular. So the Faber-Castel Polychromos, the Caran D'ache Luminance, the Caran D'ache Museum Aquarelle, which is a watercolour pencil, and particularly in black, the Derwent drawing pencil. So today we're going to be using one type of paper, and that is the PastelMatt Clairefontaine. So I've got the pads number 2 and number 3, and we're going to be using the white paper, and I've also got the brown paper just so you can see how the different types of pencils layer on coloured papers as well. So we're going to be starting with the Faber-Castell Polychromos 101, and I'm going to be using it on the PastelMatt Clairefontaine in the brown paper to start with. So I'm just going to go down really heavy with each pencil and just blend them out into this paper, just so you can see how much they fill the grain, how opaque they are, and just how rich they are against the darker paper. So the next pencil is the Caran D'ache Luminance 001, and I'm doing the exact same thing and just going down really heavy and blending it out. So it's very similar to the Polychromos at the moment. It's about the same intensity in terms of the colour. The coverage is probably a little bit grainier than the Polychromos at the moment, but on this brown paper I'd probably say they're quite similar to one another. So the next and final pencil in the white is the Caran D'ache Museum Aquarelle, which is the watercolour pencil. So this one's a lot softer. It goes down really smoothly, so you can already see that it's a lot more opaque and richer in terms of the white and the contrast against the darker paper. And because it is so soft, it does fill the grain a lot better. So the next ones we're going to look at are the black pencils, and now I'm going to start with the Faber-Castell Polychromos, the 199, and exactly the same again as I did with the white pencils. I'm just going to go down really heavy and just blend it out in this square. So the colour's not quite as intense as I would have hoped, and I tend to recommend the Polychromos mostly for finer details because they are quite a hard pencil and they do hold their points quite well. So the next pencil is the Caran D'ache Luminance 009. So it's a lot more intense already in terms of the colour, so it has got a better contrast against the darker paper. It's still a little bit grainy again, just like the Polychromos, so you are going to need quite a few layers, I think, just to get rid of that. But it is performing a little bit better than the Polychromos, so you have got a richer black there. So the next pencil we're looking at is the Caran D'ache Museum Aquarelle 009. So I would say in terms of the intensity of the black, it is somewhere between the Polychromos and the Luminance. Because it is a watercolour pencil, it is very soft, so it is filling that grain really well. And because it is watercolour based, you can also add water, only a little bit of water, and it will help spread the pigment into that grain even further. So the final pencil in the black range is the Derwent Drawing 6700, and you can already see the intensity of the black compared to the other pencils. It is an incredibly soft pencil, so it is filling the grain really nicely, probably the best out of all the pencils that I've tried, and it has a beautiful rich velvety finish. So I've just gone in and neated up my boxes a little bit further. So in regards to the white pencils, I would say they're all a little bit on par with each other against the darker paper, but I would say the Caran D'ache Museum Aquarelle is slightly richer than the others. It's a little bit softer on the paper as well, so it does fill the grain a bit better. And for the black pencils, definitely the Derwent drawing pencil because it is so dark and so rich, and then I would say the Luminance comes in at a close second. So now I'm going to be using the PastelMatt Clairefontaine in the white. I've done a really heavy layer of the Derwent drawing pencil 6700 in the black on one half, and on the other half I've used Caran D'ache Luminance pencils in green, just to show you how you can use white pencils to blend the colours together. So I'm just going in with the Faber-Castell Polychromos, doing really sharp lines in the black pencil, and then doing a heavy shading just to see how opaque they are against a layer of darker pencil. I'm now going in and doing the exact same with the Caran D'ache Luminance. It's a slightly softer pencil, so it does break a little bit more, so you don't get as rich lines as the Polychromos. But I would say if you can hold that point, it is a little bit more opaque. Because it is a softer pencil, it does tend to blend in with darker shades a little bit more, so it is a bit lost on a heavy coverage. And then finally we got the Museum Aquarelle. So that's a lot more opaque than the other two. So it does layer very, very nicely over a darker layer of pencil. And it's a lot more opaque when you use a heavy coverage as well, so you can see it. So now I'm using each pencil, and I'm just going side to side and just blending in these greens together. So we're primarily looking at how well they blend the colours, but also what they do to the colours as well. So when you're using white pencils in particular, they do tend to desaturate the colours and make them appear very, very milky. So when you are using pencils to blend colours together, you are going to particularly want to be using a pencil within that colour range. So if you're using very warm oranges, you are going to want to be using a slightly lighter tinted orange or yellow to help blend those colours and maintain that intensity and richness of that colour. Using a white is just going to desaturate those colours entirely. But in terms of the pencils, the Polychromos has desaturated the colours quite a lot. It has blended. I mean, if you did want to get that milky effect, then you can go ahead and use a white pencil. The Caran D'ache Luminance has blended fairly well, and it hasn't taken away the richness of the colour as much, I would say. And the Museum Aquarelle has taken away a lot of that colour, so because it is quite an opaque white, it does remove that intensity of colour a lot more. So now I'm going to use the black pencils on the PastelMatt Clairefontaine in the white. On the left side, I'm going to do a really, really heavy coverage. So in this one, we're looking at how opaque and how much they contrast against one another, and how well they fill the grain on the paper as well. And then on the right side, I'm just going to do just a gradual fade out, so just a nice dark to light. So I'm starting with the Faber-Castell Polychromos at the moment. Now I've noticed with this paper, the PastelMatt paper, even when you are using coloured pencil, it does create a lot of dust. So it is something that you just normally tend to expect with pastel pencils. But because of the type of paper, so it is a very soft, almost sandpaper feel, but it's not quite as textured, so it doesn't eat your pencils quite as much. But it does get a lot of dust everywhere, so you have to be careful and make sure that you don't spread it around with the oils in your hand. So I'm going to now use the Caran D'ache Luminance, the 009, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing. So on the left side, a very, very heavy layer of black pencil. So I'd say it's a little bit richer than the Polychromos. So it's a little bit more intense in terms of the black. It still does show a little bit of grain, so I guess the Polychromos and the Luminance are pretty similar in that respect. The Luminance pencil is a little bit softer and a little bit richer. Still a lot of dust again, so obviously when you're using a very pale or even white background, just be really careful that you don't smear that black pigment around on the paper. So the next pencil I'm using is the Caran D'ache Museum Aquarelle. So same again, very heavy layer of pencil on the left side. So quite a bit of dust coming off this one. The pencil is very, very soft. So it is actually going into that grain really, really nicely. The colour is fairly rich. I would say, once again, it's somewhere between the Polychromos and the Luminance. So the Luminance is slightly more richer in black. But with the Museum Aquarelles, and because they are watercolour pencils, you can use a little bit of water just to fill in that grain as well. So I'm just going to blend this one out, just going from dark to light. It's fairly easy to control on this paper. So it is obviously a little bit grainy, but I think because of the texture of the paper you're going to get that. If you want a smoother finish, you are looking at a smoother paper like Fabriano or Langton Prestige papers, like watercolour papers, hot press papers, things like that. And finally, we're using the Derwent drawing. So that one performed the best on the brown paper. So it's already pretty intense on the white paper too. Once again, it's filling the grain really, really well because it's quite soft. The contrast is a lot more obvious on the white paper than on the brown. I think it's a little bit more velvety in finish on the white paper as well. So sometimes different coloured papers have a slightly different consistency to others, so it can make the pencils perform slightly differently to others. Lots of dust coming off this one again, just like the other pencils, but a little bit more. So I say with this pencil, it's probably best if you're looking for really rich, intense black shadows. If you're looking to blend out shadows in certain areas, it's probably not the best pencil to use because it is so rich and so opaque. It is harder to get a slightly softer finish and blend out, so you are looking at maybe a Caran D'ache Luminance, Museum Aquarelle, or even the Polychromos. So here's a little closer look at each one. You can see the Luminance is slightly more opaque than the Polychromos. Slightly softer grain on the Museum Aquarelle, so not quite as much, and the Derwent drawing, which has hardly got any grain left, and a really intense black. So a quick little rundown of the pencils I've been using. So the Caran D'ache Luminance, the Faber-Castell Polychromos, the Museum Aquarelle, and also the Derwent drawing pencil. So I'm also going to be looking to do a review of the Caran D'ache Museum Aquarelle. So I'm going to do a comparison using them dry and using them wet, and just to show you how intense the colours are and how great they are at blending. And I'd also love to do a review on pan pastels and show you how to use them to create beautifully smooth, even backgrounds, and also use them as base layers for your drawing. And I will still be doing a tutorial on black and white fur. So I'll be showing you how to create intense blacks using slightly different colours as your base tones. I'm building up there to give a natural look. So black and white fur can be the most difficult because it does tend to reflect the colours or absorb the colours it has around it. And if you'd like to check out any more of my work, you can go find me at www.artistrachelcard.com, and I'll be posting any news on there regarding future tutorial videos and reviews. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and I've recently got a TikTok as well, and you can find all the details to those on my website too.